And believe it or not, even successful dentists love what they do. Izzy Novak says, I love dentistry. I can't imagine being anything else. But what about business? We tend to think that business is more about cold numbers than hot passion. It's more about logic than love. So what would surprise me was how often successful business people actually use the terms passion or love when they talk about what they do. When Jack Welch was the famous CEO of General Electric, he was asked if he liked his job. He said, no, I don't like this job. I love this job. You can have passion for a profession. Kathleen Lane, chief strategist at WorkHard, said, I found a profession I love. She also said, stress isn't working 15 hours at a job you like. Stress is working 15 minutes at a job you dislike. You can have passion for a product. James Dyson, the vacuum cleaner guy, says, I love vacuum cleaners, and I will love them until the day I die. Yep, when he dies, they're going to cremate him and then just suck up the ashes with the Dyson and plunk it on a shelf. You can have passion for a particular field. Anita Roddick, the famous founder of The Body Shop, says, I love retailing. I love buying and selling and making connections. She also says, I don't like systems, financial sheets, or plans. Yeah, no matter how much we love what we do, there's always going to be stuff we don't love. The trick is to make sure the stuff you don't love only takes up 20% of your time, and the stuff you do takes up 80%. If it's the other way around, you're in the wrong job. And sometimes passion is mistaken for ambition. People call Donald Trump ambitious. But he says, I'm not ambitious. I just love what I do. And if you love what you do a lot of stuff. And then other people say, oh, you're ambitious. And the cool thing about passion is it turns underachievers into superachievers. I have a long list of famous underachievers like Albert Einstein, who people said would go nowhere when they were kids. For instance, who said this? I was sitting in my room being a depressed guy trying to figure out what I was doing with my life. Who said that besides me? Bill Gates. Yes, Bill was such an underachiever, his parents actually sent him to counseling. I can just hear the neighbors back then saying, geez, that Gates kid, what a loser. He's never going to go anywhere. And he didn't until he discovered his passion for software. As brain surgeon Keith Black says, the energy comes from within if you love what you do. The big problem, of course, is finding your passion. A show of hands, how many of you here have not found your passion yet? Okay, a few. Yeah. Well, I say if you haven't found it yet, don't panic. Because finding passion can take time. Sure, there's the kid that knows they want to be an architect or astronaut or doctor from the time they're 10. But I actually found a much bigger group of successful people who, when they're young and even when they're older, didn't have a clue what their passion was. And it took them a long time to find it or to fall into it. As Don Lepore, who's in charge of all the computers at Charles Schwab, said to me, I fell into what I do and I didn't know I loved it until I fell into it. And I hear that a lot. So how do people find their passion? Well, they just get out there and try a lot of stuff and explore many paths. Robert Munch explored many paths. He says, I studied to be a priest. That turned out to be a disaster. I tried working on a farm. They didn't like me. I worked on a boat. It sank. I tried a lot of things that didn't work, and then I tried something that did work. And I'd say it worked. As a children's author, he's sold over 40 million books. Finding a job you love is like finding a person you love. Sometimes you got to go on a lot of really bad dates before you find the right one. Now, in a recent survey of 18 to 25-year-olds in the United States, 81% said their number one or number two life goal was to get rich. And I thought, boy, they've got it all wrong, because I've interviewed many millionaires and billionaires. And guess how many of them said their life goal was to get rich? 0. Not one. They didn't do it for money, they did it for love. They went for the zing, not the ka-ching. When Bill Gates and Paul Allen started Microsoft, they didn't do it for the money. Bill says, Paul and I never thought we'd make much money. We just loved writing software. And with that attitude, he became the richest man in the world. J.K. Rowling didn't write Harry Potter books for the money. She says, I love writing these books. I just wanted to make enough money to continue to write. And with that attitude, she became a billionaire. I became a millionaire by following my heart, not my wallet, and a number of times I walked away from really good paying jobs to do very poor paying jobs I loved better. Once was when I had a great job traveling the world, making tons of money, but I wasn't doing the one thing I loved at the time, which was photography. So I said, I think I'll leave and start my own little photo company. My heart said, yeah, go for it. My wallet and all my friends said, are you crazy? You can't walk away from all this money. You'll starve. I didn't pay any attention. I walked away. And yeah, at first there wasn't much money, but it didn't matter because I was having fun. And eventually the money came. And much more than if I'd stayed in my old job. So I discovered it's true what they say. If you do it for love, the money comes anyway. There's a second part to that equation we'll get to later. So I'd say if you want to get rich, put money at the bottom of your goals list and passion at the top. And why does it work that way? It's real simple, because if you love what you do, you'll automatically do the other things that lead to success and wealth. If you love what you do, you will work hard, you will focus, you will push yourself. And what if you're in a job you don't love? Well, just do what you love on the side. Remember, Albert Einstein was a patent clerk. That was his job, but his passion was physics. He wrote 4 of his most important papers in his spare time as a hobby. He became one of the world's greatest scientists. So it's amazing what you can do if you love what you do. The second trait successful people have in common is work. Now, I remember when I was standing there interviewing these people, and they kept telling me how hard they worked. And I thought, boy, that's boring. Why don't they tell me something interesting, like the real secret behind their success? And then when I added up all the comments in my research, I realized work is the real secret to their success. All successful people work very hard, without exception. Martha Stewart said to me, I'm a real hard worker. I work and work and work all the time. She gets about 2 or 3 hours sleep a night. Other than that, she's working all the time. Rupert Murdoch said, it's all hard work. Nothing comes easily, but I have a lot of fun. Did he say fun? Yes, successful people have fun working. That's why I say they're not really workaholics, they're workaholics. Bill Gates is a workaholic. Even after he was a multimillionaire, he worked most nights until 10 p.m. and only took 2 weeks off in 7 years. He probably spent them on his computer. Oprah's a workaholic. She says, I would never see daylight. I'd come into work at 5:30 in the morning when it was dark, I'd leave at 7 or 8 when it was dark. She says, I just went from garage to garage. And over the years, I've gone through many days and even weeks without much sleep. And I got to admit, at times like that, you say to them, am I the only one working this hard? Because there's a myth that it comes easy to some people. You turn on the TV, nobody seems to be working that hard. Chris Rock stands up on stage, tells a few jokes. What's hard about that? Even Chris says, I wasn't the funniest guy growing up, but I was the guy who worked on being funny the hardest. Trust me, I've interviewed over 1,000 people. Not one of them said it came easy, even though they were doing what they loved. And we tend to underestimate work and overestimate talent. But in the end, work tops talent. Arthur Benjamin, who has a great TED Talk, if you're on TED watching the talks, a math professor, and Time magazine called him America's best math whiz, said to me, I think numbers and I have always gotten along, but I'm sure my talent is just due to the time and hours and work that I put into it.